Hey, welcome back to another episode of Check Things. This is my current phone. Some of you might be familiar with it, some of you might have owned it. It is the Huawei Mate 9. For some of you who probably upgrade phones every year, I'm probably taking you back a bit. The reason I'm showing you this phone is because I've had this thing for 4 years. And for 4 years, this thing has been faithful. It has been good to me. It has been loyal. And this phone is and was the reason that I fell with Huawei as a company. It was the reason that every year, as they release their new flagship Mate device, I just imagine me getting the newest version. But this one right here, the Mate 9, has been so good that I've never quite gotten around to upgrading. But I think that changes this year. This phone is getting a little long in the tooth. It still works great overall. But there are just some weird kinks, when technology has like grown. I remember at the time that I got it, it was like the perfect marriage of like great price and great features. It had the best camera. But now all of my iPhone friends laugh at me when they look at my picture qualities. And that wasn't the case when this thing came out. That wasn't the case when I showed them the price that I paid for this thing, when I showed them how much storage that I got for that price and all the features that it can do. So that's why I stuck with the Mate 9 for all these years. Well, anyways, every time that I ever thought about upgrading, in my mind, I just imagined that I would get the new Mate device, whatever was out at the time. That's what would be my next phone. Like I said, this year is probably the year that I upgrade. I didn't think I would be saying this, but I don't think I'm going with another Huawei device. And it's not that I have anything against the company as a whole. It's just that if you've been following the news, if you know what's been going on for it's been over a year now with Huawei as a company versus the U.S. government, and the fact that Huawei doesn't have access to legit Android the way that other phone manufacturers do. Yeah, the way other phone manufacturers do, and the fact that there may be some ways that you can side load and you can do all these things, but especially when you're buying an international phone and support isn't what it would be if you just got your phone at your local Verizon or at your Best Buy or an Apple store or something like that. There is already like an initial level of risk involved. And now when you find out that the US government, if you live in the US, has a ban on the phone that you want to get, it kind of gives you cause to pause. And if that wasn't bad enough, when you think about the fact that there's no like Google services. I mean, I'm sorry, it does have Android, but not like those official Google services. And they tried to release Harmony OS and say that that was a good enough replacement when it really is just still Android. But just again, without the Google services, when I take all of these things into consideration and I like marry them all together, that's why I've come to the resolution that my next phone won't be a Huawei device, and in all likelihood will probably be a Galaxy. And before I make that upgrade, and as I just reflect and I think about why is it that that's the way that I'm going, it's not that Huawei did anything wrong specifically as a company, and it's not that like that I like Samsung so much. I mean, before Huawei, I had like a S3 and I had the Galaxy S4 and I even had a Note. I don't remember which one, but I had a few Galaxy phones, and it just reached the point where like they announced a new Galaxy, and I was like, they're not really innovating anymore. There isn't nothing here that really attracts me to to Samsung. as a company, and that's why I decided to give Huawei a chance. And when I heard all these reviews online, all of those reviews were saying that like it was a great phone, and I just kept on thinking to myself, I've never really heard of this company before. So what's the catch? Why is everyone selling it and saying that it's such a great thing? I got it for myself, and like I said, after all these years, I truly do not regret that decision. But yeah, I think it's sad. When I think about like what the smartphone industry could have been and would have been if Huawei was allowed to remain in the position that it was in, like I think Huawei kind of gave Samsung and even Apple to a degree a kick in the pants. Like, hey, you guys kind of have like a monopoly on the market, and you kind of have everything like covered. But like Huawei seemed to come out of nowhere, and for a time, it even managed to surpass Samsung as the like number one smartphone seller the world over. And Samsung sells a lot of phones, so that wasn't an easy feat. But like every year, what Huawei released from the design, like even down to like the chip manufacturing process, the fact that like the number of nanometers was like as low as Apple, like that was the only other company at the time that would have a chip on like a similar level, and what Huawei was and is still doing with photography, with its lenses. When I took into account all of these things, like it made me excited because that was one more competitor that was here that would like help us the viewer, help us the consumers like get the best, that would force the competition to innovate, and to not rest on the laurels and say that we have done enough, we have enough, we have the market cornered. Those who will buy Samsung, and if they don't buy Samsung, they will buy Apple. That was the general consensus, and that was the general mindset of the two giants. But Huawei came and was kind of like a savior for us in a sense. But now they're all about gone. They can't buy chips anymore from TSMC, and they don't have access to Android, and they're really fighting. They're really kicking, and I want to support them. But when I buy a phone and I have to be able to depend on it for 4 years, I can't risk that on a company where I don't know what the US is gonna say about you tomorrow. And it's so sad. So my question for you, it's been a pretty long video, but my question for you is, what do you think about all this? Do you think that the US government kind of ruined the smartphone industry, like ruined what could have been? And how do you think things could have or would have turned out if Huawei was allowed to keep on going down the path that it was going down? Like, what kind of phones do you think that we would have now? And how do you think the smartphone industry in the US and the world over, because this doesn't just affect like the US anymore, but by doing this, Huawei can effectively sell to other countries as well, for the most part outside of China. Well, anyway, yeah, just leave your thoughts down below about what you think. Again, I'm thinking of getting the S21 Ultra next. But like I said, I feel like I'm a betrayer because I was a Huawei loyalist. Um, but yeah, phones are expensive still, and I have to consider again what's gonna last me and what I can rely on and what can I depend on in the long term. Well, anyway, like I said, leave your thoughts down below. Um, Join in the conversation. I want to see what you think, where the world would have been if things had turned out different with Huawei and the US government. Don't forget to do the comment, likey, and subscribey thingies. Greatly appreciate those, and I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for watching.